Welcome to another Tech United Ask Member Anything. My name is Aaron Price. I'm the CEO of TechUnited New Jersey. Really excited today to welcome Sejal Lakhani Bhatt, the CEO of Techwerxe. Sejal, or Sage, I'm told I could call you. I'm hoping maybe I
Just
can
for
earn
now.
at the end of the call. Just for now. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. So first tell people I'm in Hoboken. Where are you actually physically based right now?
Still in Livingston.
You were in Livingston.
So
I grew up in Short Hills, so there's a small, there's a little rivalry there.
Yeah, we're just better, but that's okay. We don't have to. That's okay. We don't. You really want to start off on that note?
That's a funny thing to say. We'll come back to that. I don't know if you've been to our mall. I've been to your mall. I don't know.
Oh, wow. We're going there.
It is New Jersey. We have a lot of malls. That's mostly what this discussion is going to be about for the next 30 minutes.
I will say that, yes, the mall is good. I'm sure most of the visitors to that mall are from Livingston, so we do help you guys out a lot. So you're welcome. You're very welcome.
That's true. That's true. We do attract a lot of out-of-towners.
Yeah, no, it's a great mall.
I haven't been there in a while. I'm actually not much of a shopper, but nor did I appreciate the swank factor of the mall growing up.
No, I mean, the outfit obviously shows that. I mean,
this is an $800 t-shirt, okay? No, it's not.
Well, there are other words that I'm not allowed to use online when I'm.
No, you're welcome to make fun of my clothing choices. That happens all the time. It's very welcome. For the record, it's like a ShopRite Hanes t-shirt. Pandemic. I'm bringing my A game today. So tell people who are unaware, what is Techwerxe?
So we are a managed service provider. So people go, well, what is that? We basically become the IT department for businesses. So we do everything from cybersecurity, compliance, help desk, backup disaster recovery. We help businesses on the technology side for the small and medium businesses that it doesn't necessarily make sense for them to have one or two people, fully hired.
So what's the target client size for your clients? Who do you serve?
So we do 10 and above. We have clients, but our ideal audience is about 15, 20 to about 100.
Got it.
About 100
so for
employees.
Yes, good clarification. For those who are just getting started now, first, what I think is interesting in taking on this role with TechUnited, there is a robust community of IT providers like this around the region.
So many,
right?
So many.
How do you differentiate?
A dozen. Yeah. So having a unique factor is a really, it really depends on how well you understand things, right? In the IT world, people hire us because we're the experts. When you think about a technology company, you think about IT, you think about a bunch of people answering phone calls, you're calling the help desk, then you get 15 minutes, then you get escalated, and then you're there for another hour, and then you're escalated, and, great things are working in about a day and a half, and then 2 days later, you're calling again for an issue. And that's the frustration that people see. So with Techwerxe, our help desk is actually our last line of defense. So if you've gotten to our help desk, it's one of two things. One, it's normal operations, you're hiring, you're scaling, you're onboarding, you're doing something. But the trouble issue is that we're actually proactive. So we don't have a ton of tickets. We're not that typical IT company that's constantly on the phone picking up. My team can answer my mouse isn't working all the way up until we need to re-architect our VMware and our cloud, and how can we do that? So that's how we're different. There's a huge difference between firefighters and fire prevention. A lot of IT companies are firefighters. They come in and they'll put out the fire and it's awesome, but you've lost something there. With fire prevention, you haven't lost anything.
Yeah, I really like that metaphor. I'm not like a hardcore. I'm not like a hardcore IT support person in the real world, but to my family, I'm the go-to. Like, everything's broken, you must fix it for me now. So I would think that in your family, do you get a lot of those calls?
So my family is very smart. They would never call me. They would call my help desk. I've been told very strictly by my guys, by everybody, not to answer help desk calls and not to try to fix anything. So I have a role in my company.
Why is that?
I actually don't have a technical background. My husband started the company. He's got the technical background. I actually don't have it. And the guys that I hire are far smarter than me. They're amazing. And that's what they're there for. They're there to be the experts. I'm there to sort of manage and guide and look at the vision, but they're the ones that can make anything work.
Let's talk a little bit about how you got into the role of being CEO of Techwerxe. And I also want to talk a bit about stereotypes. Maybe we'll start there because woman, CEO.
Yes.
Interesting hair situation happening here, which I'm a big fan of. I actually
died. From you, I'm really just not sure how to take that.
Well, here's the thing. I was hoping I could show you. It all wore away, but on my hand until like yesterday my hands were blue because my daughters really wanted me to dye their hair, and so I just learned how to do whatever it is. Yeah, I think Splatworks or something was the product, but. Wow, it was almost a giant disaster. My hunch is you went to a professional place. You didn't. Actually, my daughter called my salon Salalala, which I don't know what that is, but that's apparently what now I'm known as. So I just again, I'm an expert now. I had to do some touch-up work yesterday. I'm getting pretty good.
No, this was done at the salon. Yes, and it's permanent.
That was a good choice. This was permanent, and which really added a significant challenge for our house where we did it. But regardless, I'm wondering. In this industry, we talked about. I came into this role here. I've met a bunch of IT companies. As far as I can remember, they're all led by men. It's typically a male-dominated industry.
Yes.
How have you found? What have you found to be some of the issues that come up with that? How are you perceived? Has that been a problem for
you? So let me take it back a step. So my background is I worked through the banks. I was at Merrill Lynch, then Deutsche Bank, then Morgan Stanley. I've spent over 12 years. Between the trading floor, I've spent years working and living in other countries. I've lived in London, Hong Kong, Singapore, and a couple others that I can't seem to remember right now, Tokyo. And I've been in male-dominated industries.
Who remembers Tokyo? Forget. Sorry, I'm sorry. You were saying?
So this will be interesting, and I will start to dish it out too. Just keep it up.
That's all right.
But
I was making fun of Tokyo, not you. Actually, Tokyo's fantastic, but I didn't mean to make fun of you. Actually, Tokyo is super awesome.
Tokyo, you're doing great. So I've always been in a male-dominated industry. I've always believed that you take ownership of your career and your path, and most would say I'm a guy's girl. I could probably outdrink you on tequila and bourbon.
I'm sure you could, because I can't drink at all. Although if I could drink, I have a feeling you could anyway.
You should start.
Yeah. We've thought about doing these with alcohol, doing like a
I can grab my tequila bottle. If you give me a second, it's in the fridge, already chilled. We're good. I've got the bourbon.
I think we'll do a follow-up because I really think it'd be fun to do like drinks with other business leaders. You think that would go, would you have been down for that?
I totally would have been down for that, but I would have also been down for an in-person drinks thing because drinking sort of by yourself on the laptop.
Yeah,
that could give a different. At least it's noon. I mean, we started at 10 this morning.
Yeah,
but
that's fair.
The challenge is, I'm not. I'll be honest with you. I'm not a. Women have a hard time. The glass ceiling. I'm very upfront. I am blunt. Most would say I'm aggressive in a lot of the situations. And I'm very quick to admit when I don't know something. I pride myself on surrounding myself with people that are so much smarter than me, from the ones that work to me to the ones that I partner with in ventures and business. So
can we dig in on this a little bit? Because there are women who feel like we need to do more. There needs to be, I'm going to get in trouble for the way I put this, I'm sure, but extra attention paid to some of these issues. And it sounds like what you're saying is like, I sort of take them as my own burden. It's not a female thing. Like I'm just all in. I empower myself, but I'm curious, like what your advice is to other women leaders.
Yeah. It's like you said, it's a very fine line, right? I have women that come to me that'll be like, well, you spoke on this and you say that there's no glass ceiling, there's no this. And I work at the banks and the guys never asked me to go out for a drink. And I go, well, you ever tell them that you want to go out? Hey, Aaron, you guys are going out for drinks next week. I heard you guys had an awesome time last night. I'd love to be invited. I don't know a lot of guys that would say no. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? So,
agreed.
so I definitely get in a little bit of trouble. I think that there's a fine line. I will agree that there are some things that are difficult for women. I will agree that there are pay disparities and stuff like that. Um, I think that we as a society put a lot of burden on women because of the home aspect and the work aspect, and it becomes very difficult. That being said, that being said, I personally have always been, okay, I need to do this. You know, my husband was extremely supportive. Um, we had a great sharing or collaboration of duties. I have always been the kind that will go out, and if I want something, I'm going to have that conversation. You know, we're going to talk about it. If you ask any of my clients, any of the CEOs, we can knock a drink back together. We can have an argument. We can have a discussion, and we'll come out of it as equals. And I think that's really important. So what I would say to women is there are definitely disparities out there, but for the most part, a lot of it is our own head trash. You know, people ask me, the biggest question I get is, how do you balance everything? I'm a mother, I work, I actually have 3 businesses and I'm launching a 4th. How do you do it all? And I say, I don't balance. Balance is, I'm going to apologize to everyone, but balance is bullshit. It doesn't work. You know, there is no such thing as balance. Today, TechWorks might be a priority. Tomorrow, my kids might be a priority. And the next day, I might be a priority. And that changes. And we've just got to learn that you can't do everything. Because if that's what you're going to try to do, 100% you're going to fail. Can't do it.
You seem like a very strong woman, a very strong person, but in particular, for those who lean in on the female piece, a strong woman. What do you think contributes? Like, have you always been like that? Do you think there's something your parents have done? I know your husband passed away, and I'm curious of the impact that had on you. But like, what do you think it turned you into that person?
I think I've always been that person. My father's an entrepreneur. We have 2 girls, and look, I'm Indian, and in the Indian culture at that time, it was like, the boy was the big thing. You have a boy, and it's amazing.
Where'd you grow up, by the way?
I grew up in Scarsdale, born in Queens, grew up in Scarsdale, and born in the States. And the biggest thing is, I think, just empowering people. Even after everything I've gone through, I can tell you that, it's great to see people lean in and tell you you can do it. But if you can't, I'm here for support. And I think you have to see both sides of it.
Yeah. Because I have 2, young daughters who I of course would like to see grow up into strong leaders, women leaders, but just leaders first. And any advice you'd give me on how I could help them get there?
One of the things we do with children, they go to these schools. My younger one actually went to Montessori up until this year. They go to these schools and we put them in a box and they have to listen to direction and they have to do what they're told and do everything on the times you want and don't talk back and don't do this. And then they graduate from college and they go for a job and people are like, why are you being a sheep? Why are you just doing what you're told? You're not a leader. But we just taught them for 18 years, 20 years, whatever it is, up through college, what to do, and then we're flipping that over. What I would say is empower them. My younger one will negotiate everything. I mean, everything. And I love that. And I think that, yes, I want to throw him out the window. Don't get me. And I haven't, just in case anyone's trying to call DIFUS. I have not thrown him out the window, but I do want to at times. And I think it's empowering them to really understand their differences. And I'm actually going to plug a book that I think is amazing. It's called, David Rendell wrote a book called Freak Factor. And there's a children's version. And I read that to my kids. And it takes all these things that make you not good, not great, and shows you that all those unique qualities are actually amazing. And it's what sets you apart going forward.
I like that a lot. I'm going to check out the book for sure.
It's amazing.
I touched on this before, right? How you've ended up in the seat of CEO.
Yeah.
What happened with your husband, and how did you? It seemed like there was an opportunity where you had a clear crossroads of what you may or may not do with the business.
Yeah.
What happened there, and how did you decide to take over?
Well, so let me back it up. So I left the banking industry in 2012. Literally got up and quit one day after a meeting. and then called my husband and told him that I quit. He had actually started the company in 2008. So when I quit in 2000, I was done. I was done. I was climbing that proverbial corporate ladder. I sat in a 42-minute meeting. I had 2 kids at that time, 2012. My oldest was 3.5. My youngest was 1.5. And I was traveling consistently, and I spent almost no time with my kids. Not only that, but it was stressful at home. It was a very difficult life. And I just had it. So I made the decision to quit. Mind you, not discussed it with my husband. We just built our dream house. We just moved into our dream house. And I was done. So I came home and I said, you know what? I'm not gonna work for a while. I was involved in a lot of charities. I wanted to take some time. And so that's what I did. And 3 months later, I was gonna go crazy. I thought my husband was gonna put me in a mental hospital. And we were just, he's like, why don't you help me out with the company? You're a good project manager. You know how to do some of the stuff. So in 2013, I started dabbling in it. In 2014, I realized that I could do the sales and operations and that aspect of it. And my husband was extremely smart on the tech side. So gave him the ability to focus on that. And in 2015, I took over as CEO.
Wow.
So I actually took over as CEO in 2015 prior to my husband passing away unexpectedly.
Got it. Did not realize that part. How come?
It made sense.
Was it a better fit?
Absolutely. He was a tech guru. But when it came to sales and marketing, it wasn't his thing. And I'm a people person. I'm a relationship person. I'm a strategic vision person. I worked in the corporate industry, so I'm all about procedures and documentation and sort of running the company. And it made sense. And so that's what we did.
Yeah. So what's this new business coming out?
So so I'll back it up again. So last year in February, my husband passed away unexpectedly. And I had to shut down a part of the business because it's something that, I only had so much time and so much me and trying to deal with my kids. I have 2 boys that were at the time 8 and 10, and just dealing with everything else. We shut down part of the business. And so now I'm actually launching that piece of the business, which is as a separate company called Cloudworks. So we're going to offer, we have our own private cloud in a data center, SOX 1 and 2, compliant cloud, NIST 800, everything's sort of settled. And we're going to be offering that cloud to other IT companies so that they can put their clients on it.
So, but not off, I'm assuming you sell this as a product, but now you're going to enable other IT companies to have this
Exactly. So if you think about it, a lot of businesses, AWS, Azure. In the IT industry, there's a bunch of other different cloud providers. And so when my husband built out this cloud, our clients are on this cloud. When my husband built out the cloud, it was because there wasn't enough flexibility in other clouds. It's because other clouds were too expensive. We have a virtual private cloud. We have our own infrastructure. We own it. And so there's no middleman or anything like that. So that's what we decided to do. So now we're going to offer that as a service to other IT companies.
I would think that it would be incredibly difficult to compete. And this is not my area of expertise, so please steer me in the right direction here. But incredibly difficult to compete with the AWS and IBM clouds and Google Cloud products of the world. How do you stand up something that can stand next to them?
Yeah, so we don't. Totally 2 different markets. Totally 2 different markets. So small and medium businesses it's really expensive for them to be on AWS and Azure. We're competing against the smaller cloud providers. We don't really compete with them. And to be fair, we actually utilize Azure. So if you're a Department of Defense client and you need certain compliances, we actually build off of Azure for that. So it's 2 separate, completely separate markets.
Got it. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Let's switch gears a little bit to your experience with TechUnited New Jersey. How has your experience been?
It's good. I've been part of it for a little bit. I know a couple of the people that had brought me in. So I've been on a couple of the panels. I've attended the events. I'll be honest with you. It's been a hard year with organizations when you're craving those introductions, the relationships, the networking, the ability to have a group of people that sort of understand, maybe not in your industry, but understand the surroundings. And I think it's so important for you to be around people that have a different point of view, and you bring that back into your own thing. So the experience has been great.
That's
I
good. I'm
thought
glad to hear
Innovate
that.
New Jersey was amazing. I thought that was something that, you guys did that was absolutely unbelievable. And just sort of highlighting some of these organizations.
Yeah, good. I'm glad to hear. What more, we've been tasked with just reimagining this next chapter. When I think of that, I think
Yeah.
of sort of like a decade-long chapter of the organization. What more would you like to see from the organization?
We're in a weird space. We're in the
Do you
midst of a
mean pandemic or
pandemic,
do you mean IT?
pandemic,
Yeah.
with the pandemic. And it's funny because a lot of people in the IT world have their jobs and the responsibilities have increased. IT has become paramount to companies that wouldn't even look at it before or didn't think it was important. And I think what is really needed, honestly, is the fundamentals, is looking and talking to companies about what are they doing, how are you doing something like this, right? Where can we help you? How can Tech United, who knows all these different people, help bring some stability and consistency to your company? How can we make introductions? And how can you help somebody else? So who is in your organization that I can help, and vice versa?
I'm glad you bring that up because I very much see the culture of what we're doing about a give and take. So what are the
Mhm.
sorts of things that you like to get involved with? What are areas you like to help with? If people are thinking of reaching out, what do you like
You
to get
know,
involved with doing?
you brought up something before. You brought up startups and everything like that. So we actually do, even though our clientele is between 15 and et cetera, if we think that there's a startup that's going to scale, it's leading people and guiding them in the right direction. So I've had conversations with many, many companies where I'm not their IT person, um, and said, look, this is what you guys need to do. This is where you need to be. There's a lot of people out there that spew everything. In IT, in my industry, you could spend $5 a month or you could spend $100,000 a month. And it's on so many different things, it's really having that guidance, really coming in and talking to CEOs, talking to employees. How do you keep yourself secure? We've started talking to our employees and their kids about how to make sure that they're secure and what's going on with everybody being in different places and social media and a lot about data security and personal security.
That I'm glad you brought that up. If that's ever a topic you'd like to bring to the Tech United community on a webinar or other forum, I'd love to talk about safety especially for children online. Could be something
Yeah.
that might be interesting to bring to the community because we do that. I'm really pleased with how our school has handled some of those topics.
Yes.
I think the school I work with has more resources than others, and so it'd be great potentially to bring that more widely.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
wait, I don't. Was your husband's passing a surprise?
It was. So he passed at 39, had a heart attack, went into the hospital, and just never came home. So
I'm sorry to hear that. That sounds awful. Um,
yeah.
and I'm only bringing that up because for this next question, which is, did that experience change your view on life?
Yeah. Um, yeah. So that's a hard question. It
And we can
absolutely.
move on if you don't want to talk about it. That's totally fine.
No, that's not. Yeah, it absolutely changed my view. Look, I went from having a very supportive husband. I went from having a husband that was not just involved in my life, but if you had asked my kids 3 years ago, because I was traveling so much from work, I was doing sales, I was going to mastermind groups. My husband was the figure in their life. He was literally the best father. To now me sort of juggling and working with the kids, working with the companies. Look, this is what I do. I've got to keep the business going. We've got bills to pay, mortgages to pay, et cetera, while explaining to them why it's so important for me to work. And I'll be honest with you, I love that my kids, if you go and talk to my kids, oh, where's mommy? Mommy's at a meeting because mommy works really hard. And I think that's amazing. I want them to know that I work hard. I want them to know how important it is to work hard. But my point of view has changed. You see a lot of things when something like this happens in the business area and in your personal life. And going back to reaching out for support. My company would not be here. I would not be here. My kids would not be thriving, and they're not surviving. They are thriving. Had it not been for my network, friends, family, colleagues that have become really close friends. I mean, I went through a period where I didn't have any techs. I didn't lose a single client through what I went through last year. And I literally had no techs. And just in case you didn't know, I run a tech company. And not having any techs makes it very difficult to appropriately run. And I had colleagues just step in, take over, help me hire my right-hand guy right now, who's amazing. It's support, and it's really, we're always so scared to ask for help, and people want to help you. People do want to help.
We got an interesting question from Megan, who asks, what advice do you have for companies who are now all remote, need to keep their data safe in this new work from home environment?
So, when we think about when we were all working from an office, we would bubble the office and everybody would be safe. Now you've got all of your employees working from their own individual homes and individual networks. And what you really need to do is a couple things. You need to make sure you have the right tools that are tracking who's touching the data, where the data is going, looking at your mobile devices. We're doing a lot of furloughing. Unfortunately, we're doing a lot of laying off. But what happens when you lay off one of your employees? They have all those emails and everything, all that information on their phone, right? It's making sure they've got secure connections to the data. Taking security lightly right now is a really bad idea. You hear about the targets and the more, I don't want to start naming names, but you hear about the larger companies getting, breached security wise. You don't hear about the smaller ones, not because they don't happen. They actually happen 10 times more. You don't hear about them because they go out of business within 6 months. You don't hear about them because it's not as important, because it's not a big thing, but it happens more often to smaller businesses. So you have to make sure you have the right security tools in place. And the way to do that is not by yourself. Whether it's us or another company, get a company that knows what they're doing, that can guide you on how to keep secure.
Yeah. The great response. And I appreciate that. What can this community, people who are watching, besides becoming clients, it sounds like clearly, it should be clear by now what the value add is here. But what can our community do to help you?
I think that's a great question. And I think really it's just about developing the right relationships. The most important thing, and I have realized this, is always taking on the right clients. Not everybody's a fit, but that doesn't mean you can't help. So I think let's reach out, let's talk, let's connect. It's a lot harder right now through the pandemic, but I think it's imperative to see, you never know what's going to click when. Is to have these constant conversations. And I think TechUnited does a really good job when we have the CEO tables and the round forums and all of that stuff, where you just keep talking to people and meeting people and developing those new relationships.
Good. Well, we're doing more of those. You seem like someone, and I think I share this quality, if I have this right, which is someone who doesn't take no for an answer. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
What for people, and people ask me about this quality where it's just like it's not really an option. What would you tell people who are maybe not necessarily younger in age, but younger, with their companies, pitching themselves, pitching their services, maybe hitting some hurdles or walls? What would you tell people about how to overcome some of those no's?
So in that particular case, a no is okay. I go for the no. I want a client that values us. I want a client that knows what we're getting into. My client, like I said, I can have a drink with every one of their CEOs and we can sit back and relax and talk. When it's not about quantity, it's quality. And if you have a bunch of clients that don't really fit, I can promise you're losing money. I'd rather be a $1 million company making $200,000 versus a $20 million company making $20,000. And in that case, no is okay. The one thing I do say is no is a full sentence. And I've learned to use that for everybody else. No is a full sentence. You don't have to explain why. But on the flip side of that, if I think something's really worth it, what I would tell people is I shouldn't have to convince you. I need to guide you. And if in that process you don't see it, then you don't see it. It might not be today. It might not be tomorrow. My clients all come from referrals. I have a very strong network. People refer people in, and it's very different as opposed to going out and cold calling and doing a lot of that. So it's really just people understanding you're the expert.
But I'm sure you'd agree that building that network, though, that's the long game. That takes leaning in over the long term, building trust, building value, right?
But and it's a full-time job.
Yeah.
It's a full-time job to build that network. The core group that I have now, I have 2 core groups, and I go to them for everything, whether I need my tire changed or I need, somebody to audit my entire infrastructure to make sure that it's working correctly.
And where did you find these people? Like, how did you build those groups?
Yeah, so I started, when I first started with Techwerxe, I was in the banking industry. I had no relationships with anybody outside of the financial industry. And I started hitting I went to every BNI, every chamber, every networking group. I was doing 5 to 6 a day. And you go in and you meet people, and then you grab the cream of the crop for you, right? Whoever that may be, and you move on. And then from the cream, you grab the cream. I'm part of Entrepreneurs Organization, EO, in New Jersey. I'm on the board there. And so that's all entrepreneurs, all people that are successful, that we work together. And then I'm part of C4BX, which is Connect for Business Exchange, which is another group of business owners. And what I did is I started cultivating these relationships, and you get to a point where you have that group of people because you want that right group. And one thing you have to understand, and people don't get this, is they go into these meetings and they're like, how can you help me? How can you help me? What clients, what referrals, what can you do for me? That's not going to work. You have to go the other way. How can I help you? I promise you, if you start helping people, it will come back. 100% it'll come back.
I could not agree with you more. I think it's the story of my career. So this has been a lot of fun. Maybe next time I'll wear a fancier shirt. We can go to the Milburn Deli, and you can be jealous that you don't have that deli in Livingston.
Wow. Well, we do have a couple good delis in Livingston. But my favorite's Chatham Deli. Mine's Chatham, actually, over Milburn.
All right.
Wow. You're not making a lot of fans here. You're going to have a lot of people not happy.
I mean, there's the Milburn Deli, and then there's like other wannabe places around the region. But it's
we're in Short Hills. What area do you live in?
I grew up. I don't live there now. I'm in Hoboken right now, but I grew up across from Hartshorn School.
Oh, okay. So you're not even there right now.
No. Many years I've been.
I see.
I'm just picking a fight. Really.
If that's the fight that you want to win, I'm not sure that's going to happen. I'm not sure. Happen.
More so, I would love to introduce you to, if you haven't had a Sloppy Joe Milburn Deli, it would be super awesome. Maybe with like a whiskey, since we could up the game a little bit.
I am down for that. Totally. I don't think I've had a Sloppy Joe since like. I don't think I've ever had a Sloppy Joe.
No one craves one until you have the Milburn Deli Sloppy Joe. It's really fantastic.
Wow. Okay. And then do we work out after or before? I'm just trying to figure out.
Definitely before. You're not going to want to move. There's a Sloppy Joe coma for like a good couple hours. You don't want to move.
That's great. I will tell you though, Milburn has some great restaurants.
Milburn does have a great,
yeah.
Livingston's a good place, by the way. Obviously, I'm messing around. I like Livingston.
Well, you have to say that now because you're live and you're going to get all this hate mail because I'm going to have all of Livingston come out.
I mean, yeah, they'll be mad at me at Temple. I'll get in lots of trouble. So it was,
yes,
Anyway, this was really a lot of fun. I really appreciate it. I feel like what I really love about this community is the various people that we bring to the table. And I feel like you're just like oozing with ambition, and I love that. It's exactly the kind of people that we want to surround the rest of the organization with. So I'm really glad we had a chance to spend some time together today. For those of you watching, check out TechWorks, follow Sage, who I feel like now I can officially call you that.
Not yet, not after all those jokes and that
not
shirt.
After the
we're
jabs.
We're gonna be
I went in the wrong direction. If you participated in any of the Propelify, you know that I like to end with a high five, which we can't do in person, but we can do virtually. So you can high five your camera.
Do it. All right.
On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Boom. Awesome. Check out TechWorks. You can see the URL scrolling on the bottom. Sejal Lakhani Bhatt, CEO of TechWorks. Thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Aaron. I had a great time.
Good. Bye. Thanks. Bye-bye.